We're about news, commentary, conversations, truth, liberty, and God. We stand for American values and our flag. We believe that the Constitution is a document that fortifies rights already given to us by our Creator. We will not apologize for our love of God and country, ever. We are Right America Media.
It's the Elsa Kurt Show with Clay Novak. Serving up trending news and conservative views. Brought to you by the Elsa Kurt Collection and Refuge Medical. And now, it's time for the show.
So I'm looking at this guy on this screen here, and I'm like, you look familiar. Do I know you from somewhere? I feel like it's been forever. It's been like a million years. It's been 2 weeks. I know. How are you, Clay?
I'm good, and it's been 2 weeks, but in those 2 weeks, we actually met in person for the very first time. I know people, it's weird, but after 3 years of knowing each other and 2 years of doing this podcast, Elsa and I finally met. I don't know if y'all saw it on social media or not.
But here it is.
There it is.
Here is Clay and Elsa finally together in person for the first time ever. And I'm with you, Clay. I don't know how many people had any idea of this. Like, I don't think probably a lot of people don't really even know the backstory, because we've been so blessed to acquire some new friends who follow the show and join us on here. So very quickly, guys, Clay and I met, like Clay said, like 3 years ago, right? I interviewed you for your book, Keep Moving, Keep Shooting, the original version. And here's where it got kind of funny. So we did our interview. It was great. Liked each other right off the bat. It was just a really easy time. And then, as what happens, we didn't, we were friends on social media, I think, but hadn't spoken to each other in a while. And then you had the idea to reach out and say, hey, if you're, looking for a guest again, I'd love to come back on and, talk some more about, because I think you're working on your second book and all that kind of stuff, right? And at that same time, in the same time frame that you sent that email, I was in the thought process that I wanted to add a co-host, because I was just doing it by myself, and it was fine, but it gets for me, and maybe even for you guys, the viewers and listeners, it gets a little boring listening to just one person blather on about their thoughts and opinions and blah blah blah. And I was like, gosh, I'd really like a co-host, but who? I just don't know who. Who would I pick? How do I even go about finding somebody that would be interested? Oh, it's going to be such a process. And then I opened Clay's email and I went, hang on a second. And I pulled up our interview and I went, yeah, this guy is like the perfect counter to me, to my personality, because we're very different. We have the same kind of values and beliefs generally and all that kind of stuff, but different perspectives, different ways and everything. I'm like, and that's I don't want another. Who wants another me? Everybody is supposed to say we all do, Elsa. We all do. It's okay. It's okay. Stop, guys. Stop. No, I'm kidding. So I was like, oh, this is perfect. This is a great balance. And so I, without really honestly giving it more than a few minutes of thought, I'd love to say I'm a big, deep thinker like that, but it's not impulsive. It's just quick decision making. I was like, Clay would be perfect. I'm going to ask him. And I did. And you were like, are you serious? Right? Did you actually think I was kidding, or?
I thought so, but it was very, a little bit surreal. And so I was like, yeah. But it's been 2 years. And truthfully, it was really right about now, because I think we came back, like I did, I think one episode, and then you were like, hey, I've got like 2 weeks of vacation planned, which has now become normal for us every year in August. And you were like, so we did the one episode, and then and then we've been back since then, and it's been 2 years solid. So, but we had never met, people, like never in all of that time, had never met in person. And I was, up near Elsa a couple of weeks ago, seeing some family, and saw an opportunity, and we went and had lunch together, and, had a blast. Listen, we were sitting across the table from each other, and it was literally just like this. It was the exact same. It was so funny.
It was so abnormally normal. Like
normal, yes. That's a great description. But we took that photo before we left, and then you posted it, and I reposted. And I was just telling Elsa this before we started recording. I got more responses from people that were like, "That's a lucky guy. I wish I was him." Blah blah blah. And let me tell you, folks, I will tell you that Elsa is everything in person that you see on the screen. No, that's honest truth. She is exactly what you think she is, and so it was great. It was great to have lunch, and great to meet in person. But listen, awesome. We had in 2 weeks off, we got a bunch of stuff to catch up on. So story time's great, but we got some stuff to talk about.
Yeah. So I'm actually really glad that we. Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm so glad we started a little bit light, because we have to jump right into something that's really heavy, really upsetting. And I'll be honest, Clay, I was absolutely dreading even talking about this. I have such a hard time, mother, grandmother, father, I have such a hard time talking about things like this. Like, I'll be honest, I would like to bury my head in the sand and pretend that it didn't happen, it doesn't exist, that these people aren't dealing with this reality right now. And obviously we know that that is not the case, especially in what we do as part of our chosen job here to talk about the incredibly difficult, upsetting things. I know that everybody already knows. All of our watchers and listeners already know the story. I will recap this very quickly for you. A brutal act of violence shook Minneapolis, Minnesota this week when a 23, I thought it was 22, but I have here 23-year-old biological male, Robin, formerly Robert, legal name change, so I'm referring to this person as Robin, Westman, opened fire at Annunciation Catholic School, killing 2 children and injuring 17 others before taking his own life. Despite claiming a transgender identity, the facts are clear. He was a man who targeted innocent kids in a house of God. Federal investigators are weighing hate crime charges against Catholics. The tragedy has reignited the debate over mental illness and security in faith-based schools, and the destructive culture that lies and denies truth and enables this kind of chaos. So that's my personal takeaway on that. What are your thoughts, Clay, and your perspectives on this, please? Yeah,
just a little forewarning, folks. I'm pretty salty about this. I'm pretty upset for a lot of reasons, and my language might be a little harsher than it normally is. But when this happened, the first reports came out. My brain did what it does. And so I went through analytics right away, and we've all learned, I learned in the military for years, first reports are always wrong. So I waited. I honestly didn't follow for probably the first hour, maybe 2 hours. I didn't read anything about it other than headlines, because I knew the details were going to be probably misreported or misrepresented. But my brain was cycling. So it was, initial reports of Minneapolis, initial reports of a Catholic school, and my brain went to probably Somali, because there's a heavy Somali Muslim population, as we all know, in Minneapolis. So I went to domestic terrorism or terrorism in general. And then, the thoughts of Catholics specifically, because you don't see that often, targeted religious site. So then I waited, and everything, kind of unveiled itself with some clarity. So then the reports came through of a trans, individual, and then it went immediately to mental health, which is what this is about. And so, for those of you that do or don't know or follow this, there's a manual for mental illness. It's the DSM, I think 5 is what it is. Gender dysphoria, which is what leads people to a trans procedure or trans lifestyle, is no longer classified as a mental illness, which is tragic, because what it also says in there is, while it's no longer classified as a mental illness, the people who suffer from gender dysphoria, and they've renamed it to something else, something lighter, something less offensive, tend to suffer from significant other mental illness issues or mental illnesses. And so, they've clouded the issue by saying, yeah, they've got mental issues, but this isn't one of them, which I completely disagree with. I think gender dysphoria, especially when it leads to mutilation of your own body, is a mental illness. That is a mental illness. I think that we are, softening this to the point where we're excusing it. There was a lot of follow-up yesterday about how many trans or trans-associated people have been responsible for mass shootings in the last few years. The number is astronomically high if you haven't looked at that. And then immediately, of course, everybody turns around and wants to blame guns instead of some of the key facts, which are mental illness, 1, 2, parental responsibility. By the way, this transition started before this individual was 18 years old, endorsed by the parents, yes, who I found out this morning, and I don't know if this, I would assume 24 hours or 18 hours afterwards. This individual's mother worked at this school. Yes. So now you've got a religious hate crime, like there clearly was motivation against either the Catholic Church or the mother who worked at the Catholic Church. I hate my parents because they allowed me to do this to myself. We all know that there's, in the trans world, there's tons of stories of regret that happen as these people who transition as children grow into adults. I think that this person was suffering from that, and lashed out. I think there was tons of mental instability, anger issues. But of course, people, and I'm taking a breath, people like Jen Psaki, and I've got a list of names in the back of my head right now that I would like to call her and others, their immediate reaction is to blame guns and not everything else associated with it. And she, of course, also went after religion in a very backhanded way. I don't know if you saw her comments, but it was the typical thoughts and prayers aren't enough. Yeah. Praying is not enough. Basically, she said your religion is irrelevant in this discussion and that action needs to be taken. Well, that's exactly what Jen Psaki and people like her, the liberal left, want. They want to whitewash and rid the nation of religion. They want a godless thought process in anything and everything that we do. Right. And it's relevant and it's apparent in everything they say. When you've got an adult like this who has severe mental issues, who has no problems going in and shooting and killing children, this starts with the legitimization of abortion. I'm sorry, I don't care what your opinion is, but when you start with it's okay to kill unborn children, then all of your, belief system is based there. The irrelevant value of human life goes out, that is your baseline. And I don't want to hear any other sympathy. And I am so sick and tired of the excusal of the oh, well, this person's trans. The mayor of Minneapolis yesterday, right, was blaming Christians, was telling Christians to stop praying, to this is stop blaming the trans community, stop, seriously, shut the F up. I'm tired of it. I really, really am. And everybody who is on board with this, truthfully, is sick. They have serious moral and ethical issues. And Jen Psaki is the epitome of it right now.
Absolutely. Listen, if I nodded my head in agreement any harder, I would have whacked my forehead on the microphone, because you are spot on 100% in everything that you just said. I fully agree. And I especially love your reference to justifying and excusing and accepting, normalizing, because I love that word, normalizing abortion. Yes, the devaluing of God-given, God-created life is unacceptable in any way, shape, or form. And excusing and justifying it is the beginning of the depravity, really. And to allow, and then we move into this agreeing with someone with gender dysphoria that their body that they were born in is wrong and bad, and they should mutilate it, and they should take hormones and drugs and things to stop the natural biological process of your body and your brain. We know now the impact. We have enough cases and enough studies that have been done on the long-term effects on this. We witness what is happening with these people. Mental illness, period. Like, that is what this is. It's not guns. It's not. And by the way, I'm not going to, Clay and I have had a pretty long-standing agreement that we're not going to give platform to these evildoers to these people. So I'm not going to be showing the videos of the person. They're out there. They're all over X. If you want to see them, we won't have our feelings hurt if you step away and want to go watch those. And I'm not knocking you if you choose to watch them. We just agree that we're not going to be ones to give them more of a platform than what they deserve. I would rather give the attention to the victims and the victims' families. And the other thing that I have been doing and will always continue to do, despite the Jen Psaki's of the world, is to pray for the victims and for the families and for the communities and for this world and for this country and everyone and everything in it. So no matter what these jackasses say to the contrary, prayer is incredibly powerful. It is comforting. It is effective. It does so much. And for those that tell you that your thoughts and prayers are invaluable and they mean nothing in cases like this, you are incredibly woefully misguided as to the power of prayer and the purpose of prayer. Prayer is not like rubbing a genie bottle and getting wishes granted. And I think that's where some of these people tend to get maybe willfully confused about it. When we pray, we're not making wishes to a genie. We are praying for the outcomes and the things that we want, but we are trusting in God and that His will is greater than our own and that His comfort can sustain us through the most horrific moments and times in our life. These are man-made incidents. These are man-created, not God-created. God did not create what happened here. He is not responsible for it. Evil people are responsible for it. People who promote evil and who instigate evil and who justify evil are to blame here. So we turn to God to comfort us and to guide us in our words and our actions and our behaviors. And yeah, I mean, that is the purpose and the power of prayer. And I do think that prayer is one of the most powerful, meaningful things that you can do. So if anybody tells you otherwise, pardon me, but they can suck it. So sorry. I had to go lowbrow there for a second. Somebody will come at me for like, oh, you were doing so good, Elsa, until you said that. Oh, listen, well. There's so much more that the me in me, and this is my phrase that I like to use, the me in me would like to say the very same words that Clay wanted to say as well. So yeah. And I learned from you, Clay, in taking that pause in the commenting and the sharing and all of that, because as I've been open with before, I have bitten my own bottom in the process of, doing that, sharing things too soon and without knowing. And I did, as I researched some images and things for this topic, I came across the first early postings of what was happening. And of course, it was a picture and a name of somebody completely different than who it ended up to be. And they were like, this is the, reported shooter, and this is their name and their a picture and all that stuff. And like, it's just some dude. It's just some dude who has nothing to do with anything. But yeah, what it comes down to is that we have to actually address the deeper issues here, which is the mental illness, which gender dysphoria is 100% a part of that needs to be reinstated into those documents that you were mentioning, needs to be put back in there. And honestly, I think anyone who is, and maybe I'm getting wild here, but I personally feel like anybody who is performing these surgeries and prescribing these altering drugs and medications, and these parents who are, championing this, I feel like it's criminal. I feel like it's criminal. I truly and genuinely do. There needs to be a greater, broader accountability for the mental decline that is happening. Because it's not just like, wow, how did this happen? There's a very clear path that you can see how it's happening. So to deny it is just simply sticking your head in the sand and pretending that that's not the case. And the other thing, Clay, I wanted to touch on with that is, and this is definitely a big left and right divide, obviously. I want to see armed guards outside of these schools. I want to see armed. I want to see people who are able to be armed in these facilities, whether it's a school or a church, whatever the case is, get those damn no guns allowed signs and rules out of your spaces where they're particularly, especially where there are children. Bullshit that you don't think those kids should be protected at all costs. You're going to protect celebrities and politicians and government people. I mean, are you kidding me right now? They're protected by armed guards and gates and walls and locks and all of those things. But our children, the most precious thing on the planet, is not going to be protected. Screw you. Bullshit.
Yeah, and I'm, I've always been an advocate for the number one thing that stops a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun. Mm-hmm. I've also said many, many times that there's an entire veteran population that has, that would love to be involved in this type of protection. Yeah. And I'm honest, and I understand who I am and where, my background lies and the people that I have served with over the years. Not everybody, just because you're a veteran doesn't mean you're cut out for that kind of work, and there still needs to be vetting done and those kinds of things. However, I think there's a lot of availability out there and a lot of people who would want to do that, to take that on. And I think it's appropriate at this point for all the reasons that you said, which is we guard everything up to and including our money with armed guards, but we don't guard our children. And I think it's misaligned. I think, this is an environmental nature versus nurture kind of discussion as well. The state of Minnesota is clearly a place that has some issues environmentally, and I'm not going to blame everything on Governor Walz, okay, as much as I would like to, because the guy's a big dum-dum, and he's got his own issues. But this is well before him, but it's nurtured by people like him in that state, clearly. So, and I'm not hating on all of Minnesota. People don't freak out, but if you live there, you probably know and realize what you're living in. Very much like people who live in and around New York City, or live in Southern California, or live outside of Chicago. Like, those folks know the debacle that their states and their localities are in. And I'm sure if you live in Minnesota, you probably feel it as well, especially if you're a conservative. So, that is it's an issue across the board, and please, Jen Psaki again, comparing us, I think it was her comparing us to Europe, like, oh, all these European countries have figured this out. Why, yeah, I know, but they have knife attacks every day and they're horrific, right? Yeah. And truthfully, for a bunch of liberals who keep calling President Trump a dictator, you would think that getting rid of guns is about the last friggin' thing that they really want to do, right? Yeah. So it's all disconnected and it's all messaging and it's all bullshit because they just want to get rid of guns. I'm not a conspiracy theorist to the point of where this was a planned and planted incident for that specific purpose. There are a lot of people out there who are like that. I believe this is severe, just a simple case, not a simple, but a case of, mental illness, and a severe problem with an individual, and that's kind of where we sit. Let's not belabor this anymore. This is a terrible topic, and I think we've hit it all. So, not that we've got a lot more light until maybe the end, but
we'll get there, guys. We will. Yeah. We got a couple lighter ones. We got to get through the tough stuff first, and to close out, for my Christian family out there, I want to close out that topic with just saying to you, the Lord is near to those who have a broken heart, and that is from Psalm 34:18, and that's a little stick it to the Jen Psakis of the world. So yes, I close it out with a little faith and a little snark. Let's move on to the troops in our cities, law and order or political theater. You take it from the top, Clay. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm not a fan of this, and I know there's a lot of folks who are fans of President Trump and Sect F that are fans of this. The reason I'm not for this is because it's not sustainable. Mm-hmm. Clearly, in the short term, there has been a massive impact in Washington, D.C. All the stats show it. Crime is down. Violent crime is down. Mm-hmm. Street vendors are saying this is great. I can actually walk around and not be worried about getting mugged or whatever. And the impact has been immediate. So that's I'm not against it for that reason, but I'm against it because the policy in the city of Washington, D.C., and as this expands to other cities, which is probably what's going to happen, until you change the policy, until you implement more law enforcement, capability in terms of officers or whatever it is, or even just policy and prosecution by state's attorney, district attorneys, this doesn't change unless you keep the National Guard there forever. I wrote a blog about this week, and they can't stay there forever. None of us need them or want them to stay there forever. So there has to be a better solution. And in the meantime, Most of those National Guard members are not trained to do this. And now we're going to arm them. They've been authorized to carry pistols and in some case rifles. And things have been fairly quiet in Washington, D.C. I would tell you if it expands to places like Chicago, it may not stay quiet. And now you've got these kids, these National Guard members, men and women standing on street corners who are now at risk. And not just of getting injured, but of injuring someone else, right? And I know it's easy to say that's what they signed up for, but in a law enforcement capacity, and you understand this as a cop's wife, these kids are not trained police officers. They're not trained to enforce the law. They're being put in place to augment the police department. But if you're short, pick your number, 2,000, 4,000, 8,000 officers, when the National Guard leaves, these cities go back to what they were. And that's why I don't like this as a solution. It's a great short term, but I think in the long term, this is a horrible decision. And we can't, as a nation, be comfortable with soldiers on our streets as part of law enforcement. None of us should be happy about this as a long-term solution. But the problem is there is no other long-term solution. And that is my greatest fear.
Right. No, those are great points. It's, I have felt conflicted about it. You see, I agree. You see the short-term results where the crime stats have gone down dramatically, and that's that's a big yay. That's exactly what needed to be done. So I guess my perspective would be pretty similar in that, like, listen, if we're calling this a reset, like this, we just hit the restart button and just kind of brought it back down to more normalcy, I guess, more law and order. Wonderful. But yeah, what are the next steps, and how do you walk them back now and give this power back to, and I think the answer is that, we have to, it goes to even the courts. Like, we can't get the courts to do what they're supposed to do, which is lock up bad people. They keep sending them out, so and my heart, as is obvious, and of course and anyone who knows anything about me, my heart always immediately automatically goes to law enforcement, because they are out there trying to do their damn job, which is make the streets safer for people and for citizens, and to just simply do their job. And they do their job, and they do the job, and then the courts let them out again. And it's just this, and this has been going, this is decades long. This isn't anything new. This is why we've gotten to where we're at, right? To why it's so bad.
Exactly right.
Yep. So, I guess the answer is it even an answer? Like, the solution has to become, how do we get the courts to do what they're supposed to do? And I know that that's, easy to ask and harder to answer, because you're talking about overcrowding in prisons and this and that, and how we categorize crimes, and I know that this is such a bigger conversation than what I'm making it sound like here, but it has to be addressed. Like, we can't just go, well, that's really hard, well, I guess we can't do anything about it. No, you kind of have to do something about it. And and I love that. I love this as a first step. I love this as, what feels like the reset button for, these cities and these areas that are just so overrun, where people, just don't feel safe going out anywhere. So great restart, but make a plan for what's next. And I don't know, Clay, I mean, have you heard anything like, okay, so we've done this. We've got the National Guard out there. We've kind of restored the peace and law and order here. Next, we're going to. Have you heard anything? No. So I agree. That is a problem. Like, we need what's next? Like, what do we do? What are we going to allow the police to do? Basically my question is more of, are we going to allow the police to actually do their jobs? And are the courts going to enforce the laws? And I think that's kind of where I'm standing on it, that, are the courts going to enforce the laws? And if not, what are we going to do about that? Right? I don't know.
Yeah. You've got, and I've seen people like, oh, well, they're targeting all of these blue states when really crime rates in red states are higher. And the reality is that, the crime rates in blue cities inside of red states are where the problems are. Right.
Yeah.
But when you've got a place like, let's just take, you could take New York, you could take Chicago, you could take LA, where you've got a, Democratic governor, you've got a Democratic mayor. I mean, listen, Chicago hasn't had a Republican mayor in over 100 years, right? So again, a Democratic governor, a Democratic mayor, the district attorneys, and all those, like all of that. This is the result of decades and decades and decades of just decay. And I hate to say this, but I think Seattle falling apart, Portland falling apart, San Francisco falling apart, which they are, as we've talked about on the show, is not enough. One of our top 5 major metro areas is really going to have to collapse for there to be the backlash against local politics, in other words, mayoral politics, to fix this. New York was in the 70s was a mess, right? And then, you had Giuliani and right, some things changed, and that was a great, but people have forgotten, right? People have forgotten how bad that was, and the pendulum swing to better, and now they're swinging back the other direction. And I think you need to see that again in a place like Chicago or Los Angeles, and or back in New York again, for that matter, for people to take this seriously. But there's no exit strategy for the National Guard right now. So I'm dismayed that this is people are settling into this. I don't like it. We should remain uncomfortable and truthfully demand out of the White House, who implemented this, to say, okay, like you said, what's the next step?
What's next? Right.
Where do we go from here? We can't sit back and say, okay, all right, everything's cool. We're selling hot dogs on the street again. That's great. Right. The National Guard's got to go home at some point. Like this can't be permanent. So we got to figure that piece out before it becomes permanent. And none of us should want that.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. Want to move on to something I don't know if I'd call it fun, but is it even funny? I mean, it's kind of funny in the sense that, wow, we are as a society spending a lot of time talking about a chain restaurant logo change. Like, we are spending a lot of time and energy invested in this. And I didn't have a whole heck of a lot to say about it. So I wasn't saying anything about this, Clay, for, I don't know, the first several days, if not longer, of this whole saga. Frankly, because I didn't care. And I just didn't. I mean, like, I feel a little bad, seeing how emotional people got over the whole thing. I got, as you know, Clay, I got an email from somebody. Well, let me backtrack just a tiny bit here. I was perusing, which I don't often do, and I do very short amounts of it. I was perusing the comment section of one of my videos, and someone had it had nothing to do with Cracker Barrel or anything like that. And somebody had made the comment that, Elsa, I haven't heard you say anything about Cracker Barrel yet. I'm curious what your opinion is. Something I'm paraphrasing, but that was like the gist of it. And I was like, somebody wants my opinion on Cracker Barrel? I mean, who am I? I'm losing my headphones here. Who am I to disappoint somebody who wants my opinion that I just love to give? So I gave the whole thing a little bit of thought, and I kind of just evaluated my thoughts and opinions on this. And I was like, okay, so let's see. I have been to Cracker Barrel maybe 3 or 4 times in my life. My opinion is that, it's cute and quaint, and like, this is the gist of what I posted, basically. It was cute and quaint. The food was kind of just average. It's like stuff that's like pre-made and heated up, I think. I'm sorry, Cracker Barrel, if that's not correct, but that's kind of how it seemed. I don't know, maybe it is made fresh. I don't know. Sorry, guys, because people, as you're going to find out, get very emotional about this. I thought the times that I've been there that I can recall, the staff was very nice and friendly. I personally thought the little store to the side of the place was, overpriced, but cute stuff in there. It's just not stuff that I would buy. But it was a pretty underwhelming impression. I'm not really knocking it, but I'm also not like raving about it either. It's just whatever to me. Well, I got an email from somebody. Like, somebody took the time to email me to tell me that they were extremely disappointed in me, and they don't vote for me anymore, and they don't endorse me, and they don't like me, and they're mad at me, and they're not going to follow me anymore because of the terrible things that I said about Cracker Barrel, which is like an institution and, an iconic, like, I don't know. The guy he kind of lost it on me a little bit there. And I was so stunned by it. Like, I'm so sorry. I didn't know that my opinion, first of all, was that valuable. I will be more careful. I will be so much more careful with the weight of my words going forward. Like, it was the most bizarre thing to me. And, I bring it on myself by making my email address accessible to people. It was kind of meant as a listen, if this is business, like this is my job, this is my business, this is what I do for a living. I know that there are people in the world that do not consider what I do and what you do a job, that it's not real work. I'm sorry to disappoint you and to anger you further, but it is actually a job. I spend many hours a day every week doing this stuff. But that's
So
what my email's there.
that was Mr. Elliott,
Yes.
which you posted on social media, who
Yes.
I still think we should have on the show.
Elliot,
But
come on the show.
yeah, but so interestingly enough, folks, so we haven't done this yet. This is oddly Thursday morning.
Yes.
Thursday morning. So you're going to see this tonight.
Mm-hmm.
But Thursday morning, we're recording this. I did in our normal rhythm with Elsa. I sent a list of topics on Monday. And of course, Cracker Barrel was one of the top 2 or 3 on the list. It was even before the Minnesota incident yesterday, which we added this morning, by the way. But Cracker Barrel was on there. And from the time that I sent that on Monday to this morning, Thursday, this is all flipped over, right? Cracker Barrel has reverted. They are going back to their old logo. I don't know if they're going to, they had a handful of restaurants that had been converted from this old, like, cedary, antique crap hanging on the walls, right? That was their vibe. It always was.
Thing. Yeah.
But they kind of whitewashed it a little bit. They went to a lighter color gray and some other things. And, so I don't know if they're going to flip those restaurants back or not, but they are going back to the old logo. But I read a thing yesterday, and this was about an investor. And I'm not going to try and remember his name. I do know that he is a high-end investor in Cracker Barrel. I know that he owns some other things. The guy's a high money guy. But in 2024, this CEO who's responsible for all this came out and sent a letter to the shareholders and was like, hey, these are all the things that we're going to do. And a lot of it was, make friends with the LGBTQ community, make Cracker Barrel a safe space, blah, 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 blah. And he threw a conniption fit. And he was like, this is crap. This has nothing to do with our business. This has nothing to do with our business model. This is not the targeted audience, and all this other stuff. And he wrote some either 7 or 11 page letter in response to her state of the company. And he warned everybody a year ago that this was going to be a disaster.
Sure enough.
And sure enough, it rolls around and it happens. And then there's been this quick turnaround on basically because of the outcry from the customers on, they don't like this. Right. And listen, I get it. If I like the food. It's very everything's covered in gravy, which I'm a huge fan of.
I love gravy.
But I had a good friend of mine that I used to work with who was a manager, managed a Cracker Barrel, and they have Cracker Barrel is actually a lot of companies model their manager development program after Cracker Barrel because it is very thorough, it's very intense, and they take it very, very seriously. So there's some great business practices in Cracker Barrel. The store's cool, whatever. Like if you're a Gen Xer, every candy from when you were a kid is in there, which is kind of awesome. But yes, the other stuff, you can get everything in there from beard balm to an apron with a tractor on it.
Right.
And everything.
Yeah, it's cute stuff in there. It's maybe because I'm not a things person. Yeah. Yeah,
this was a horrible business decision for that audience. What they should have done was concentrate on the other pillars in her letter, which were higher quality customer service, higher quality food, a better kind of, environment or company culture. And they should have put their effort into that instead of the rebranding and everything else. And clearly that part of it has backfired. And after losing hundreds of millions of dollars in stock value and revenue, they're getting killed. Yeah. And so what people don't realize why this money guy flipped out a year ago was because Cracker Barrel's revenue over an 11-year span, added $1 billion in revenue, but their profit decreased. They were still profitable, but their profit went from, let's just call it it went from maybe 175 million to, 142 million, even though their revenue, their intake went up by $1 billion. Their, it's crazy. So he was like, this is not fixing the problem. We have a problem. This is not fixing the problem.
Mm-hmm.
And, she proceeded forward. And the question is how long until she resigns or is fired? Now that they have said, hey, we're going backwards on this. We're bringing back the old man in the barrel, et cetera. So keep your eyes on Cracker Barrel, folks.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's that whole, woke mind virus. Like,
that's exactly right.
This is what happens. Like, you hire somebody who is incapable of reading the room and think that they're going to fix the problem. You don't even know what your company's demographic is.
Yeah.
You should be fired weeks ago, technically. You should never even been hired. Like, question number one, do you understand our demographic? Like, let me write your questionnaire for your prospective CEOs. Do you understand our demographic? Do you know who we serve? Do you know our story? Now, since this all came out, since I was, reprimanded so aggressively for my opinions there, I have been reading a little bit more, and it's actually very, very charming. There were people who put in the comments section, were so gracious to put in the comment sections their stories of their experiences in Cracker Barrel and what Cracker Barrel actually meant to them or means to them. And it was actually very sweet and very touching that there were a lot of truckers that came in and said, listen, that is where I would go, on those long hauls. That's where I would stop for my meals. And it was like a little slice of home. It felt like home cooking and atmosphere, and it made me feel better. And it made me feel good. And that touched my heart. I'm like, oh, now I feel really bad about being kind of flip about this and whatever. I didn't know. So I do apologize again, this time more genuinely that, listen, I did not know the effect. I'm not from the South. I know Cracker Barrel just came to my area. Well, it's probably been around for a decade or more. But I remember when it came to our area and I was like, what the heck is Cracker Barrel? I didn't even know. So forgive me for my, in my ignorance, guys. But yes, but it's okay. It's technically okay that I don't know. I don't work for Cracker Barrel. I'm not making decisions on their stuff and things, which you should all be thankful for. But yeah, if you want to rebrand, if you want to update that logo, just keep the essence of it and just make it a little newer looking. I don't know. I think is Uncle Herschel. I think is the guy in the barrel.
I think you're right. Yeah. Yep.
Keep him, keep the barrel, keep everything. Just brighten it up a little bit. Keep him in his overalls. Don't even change the overalls, but just refresh.
Yeah, there's nothing. It's a business decision, and I get it. Rebranding is what it is, and companies need to go through that. And actually, I give Cracker Barrel, the corporation, whoever it is, some props because they were a lot quicker to respond and rebound than, say, Anheuser-Busch.
Yes,
right. And some other companies who have suffered from the go woke, go broke.
Right.
They heard loud and clear, and they were like, all right, ceasefire. It's been a horrible week. Let's stop doing this. So good for them.
Right. And, and this is not, and the thing that and for several of the topics, our first topic and this one as well, the left will automatically go to, this is trans hate, this is LGBTQ hate, this is, all the phobias that they, blah, blah, blah phobia. No, it's not. It's a love and an appreciation for traditional values, and you can do and be however you choose to be. I don't hate you for it. In fact, I love you and I want the best for you, and I want you to have your best life possible and all the love in the world. And I want your mental health to be great. So it's not about that. It's about you can like what you like. We can like what we like. And if Cracker Barrel has always appealed to a certain demographic, a certain crowd, so that's who you're focusing on. Everybody's welcome. Everybody is welcome, but this is the key audience for that. So
that's who goes there.
Yeah, that's who goes there. Yeah. I mean, it's not that nobody else is welcome there, but you attract who you attract. I mean, stop making it everything has to be a thing. So exhausting, Clay. All right.
What's next?
Spent a lot of time on Cracker Barrel. We got to move on. Less fun again. We're on a roller coaster today with this, right? We're going back down. This is awful. Oh my goodness. Awful.
This is, folks, this is a lot of things. But this is a direct result of, the immigration policy of the previous administration. Okay. This individual came here, Indian, had a co-driver with him. For those of you, I'm sure everybody tracking this by now, but tractor trailer, long haul truck driver made an illegal U-turn, crushed a minivan, killed a family of 3, and then immediately fled back to California. This happened in Florida, right? Yeah. Caught the guy, brought him back to Florida, found out that illegal immigrant, found out that California illegally gave him a CDL, all of the things that, we knew and assumed was happening as a result of the poor immigration policy based on the last administration. This guy is it. So, and now we're turning it back, right? The guy's going to get deported. I think that the state of California should be held somewhat responsible for issuing the illegal CDL to this guy. And I am a fan. I know, people say we keep taking jobs away from non-English speakers, but if you can't know and understand and read the rules of the road in the United States, then you shouldn't be driving.
Right.
This is not about your ability to speak English. It's about your ability to know and understand the rules associated where you can risk the lives of, say, a family of 3 in a friggin' minivan.
Right.
So, President Trump and Secretary of Transportation Duffy, who's saying, got to speak English to drive a truck. Mm-hmm. Great. I think it should be that way. Yeah. You can't drive around in other countries. You would be surprised, folks, if you have never been to another country and tried to see what it's like to get a driver's license, even for a passenger car in another country. Good luck.
Yeah.
You actually, in Germany, you have to be able to read and write German because you have to be able to understand the road signs. It's all of those things that, people here in America are like, oh, this is targeting illegal immigrants. Yeah, it is. But it's a safety factor.
Right. Yeah.
So,
I think the overwhelming problem I think that we have in this society, in this country, is that we live in this, and I'm being this is obviously a generalization when I say this, we live in this bubble where we are so grossly unaware of the policies and the rules in other countries, and we think that these expectations are so insane, that we should have borders, that we should have these rules, that you should have to be able to speak English in order to get your driver's license, especially a CDL license. I mean, any license really, but there's this perception that this is a cruel and unfair thing and un-American and all of that. And I mean, like you said, to echo you, Clay, look at every other country. These are matter of course actions and rules and guidelines and laws that they have. And why should we not? Like, it's just bizarre to me, Clay.
And listen, we're not talking out of both sides of our mouth, because I said earlier, Jen Psaki's like, hey, Europe's figured out how not to have mass shootings. Why can't we follow Europe's, example? And we both were like, no, we're not Europe. Mm-hmm. This is, and then we turn around and we say, yes, it's hard to get a driver's license in Germany. We should follow Germany's example. I get it. It sounds a little two-faced, but there is some practicality and some common sense that needs to be applied. And that's exactly what we're talking about. Mm-hmm. If you can't understand and read road signs, and you can't read the manual and take the test that says, here's how to be safe on the roads, then you shouldn't be driving. And that's really the issue. Mm-hmm. And don't even get me started. I don't know if you saw this thing with this little girl defending her sister with a knife who got arrested. Did you hear about this?
I did not. I did not.
Yeah. That. So I think Scotland. It's in the UK. Mm-hmm. A man filming 2 young girls, 14-year-old, 12-year-old, and filming with his phone and kind of coming up to them, and it was clearly an uncomfortable situation. The older sister, 14. Pulled out a knife and said, get away from my sister, stop filming us, and threatened the guy, right?
That girl. Yeah.
You know who got arrested? The 14-year-old girl.
Of course.
Because she was carrying a knife. Right?
Unfreaking real.
Right. So that's not what we're talking about, folks, right? We're talking about some common sense, right? Read the driver's manual, be able to pass the test, read the road signs in English. And for those of you that say, simple. For those of you that say, well, why don't they just have the test in Spanish, or why don't they just have the road signs? Aren't in Spanish, folks.
They're not in
Spanish. The road signs are in English, nor should we go back and redo everything in multiple languages. Right. Not a thing. No. So the reason it's not in multiple languages to take the test is because the road signs are in English. They're always going to be in English, and you have to be able to read English. Period.
And by the way, you want to even simplify it even more. The majority of these signs are symbols. Like, if you can't understand, if you don't know what those symbols mean, like you don't even
no U-turn,
right? like fine, you don't want to learn English. Okay, fine, not really, but just go with me. Learn the symbols. Like, how did this guy pass his test? How did he pass the test? Like, someone explain that garbage.
Well, he didn't pass the test. He got his license illegally, obviously, as we know now. But also, if you've ever driven in the Middle East, I know this guy was Indian, but Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Afghanistan, Pakistan, like I've seen and been on those roads. And let me tell you something. They don't follow. I would be surprised if they have road rules, but they certainly don't follow them. So that's a culture issue as well. But regardless, I'm on board with this. Department of Transportation, you got to speak English to get a CDL to be able to drive a truck.
Yeah,
just should be a way. That's the way it is.
Yeah. Y'all can argue it all you want, but that's simply the fact.
Care.
I don't care.
Yep.
I don't care. Let's see. Okay, so this one.
I surprised you with this one, didn't I?
You did. I'm like, I read it. And what I do is I like copy it and I put it into there. Like there's a whole process I go through, and then I plug it in to do my research. And I kind of just did it like on autopilot, just that initial process of it. And then I read it again. I'm like, I'm sorry, wait, what? I'm what? Go ahead, Clay. Tell what's going on.
Listen, this is also gonna bleed into our next topic, so we'll just go one into the other. But this has to do with the war between Ukraine and Russia, right. And really, what you've got is Russian soldiers, right, are paying each other. This isn't like shoot me in the foot so I don't get drafted. Right. This is on the battlefield. Shoot me so that it looks like I was wounded in combat, and I get all the benefits that come afterwards, right? So this is like. Out on the battlefield, one guy pre-planned pays a fellow soldier however much. It's a lot of money, right? They're paying each other to shoot them in the course of a war, so that they can get sent home and draw all the benefits of their VA, the Russian VA system, which they have. And this is a thing now. Like this is legitimately drawing enough attention that it's being reported globally. Like
so
I can't fathom. This is like when you have a conscript army, this is what happens. So for all of you that are like, we should institute the draft in the United States, this is the kind of stuff you get. So yeah. But again, now this bleeds into the next. So what did you think of this when you read this?
Well,
what did you think?
And apparently it's my standing reaction here. I can't help but laugh, and I know it's not funny, guys.
Oh, it is funny. No, it's funny.
Thank you. Because I know that I have a terrible sense of humor. I find terrible things funny. I've passed this terrible gene. Can I segue for one how we do it? I'm going to do it. I got to segue for one very quick second and just tell you guys this story to reinforce my terrible sense of humor that I have passed down not only to my children, but to my grandchildren. The 2-year-old and the 1-year-old were fighting over real estate on the chair with my daughter, with their mommy. And the 2-year-old had won in the real estate game. And the 1-year-old was climbing. He's like a little spider monkey. And he was climbing up the chair, essentially. It's like one of those recliners. And the 2-year-old kind of gave him a gentle nudge with her foot to help him off. to which he landed on his head. He's fine, guys. He's fine. But the 2-year-old, and I kid you not, the 2-year-old watched this happen and went, laughed her ass off at him falling. And I looked at my daughter and I said, I'm so sorry she gets it from me. So that tells you how rotten my humor is. So I'm sorry that I found this funny. I feel better that you found it funny too. It's, I there's layers to it, certainly, that you're like, wow, that's really, where's the valor there? But you made such a great point on that, Clay. Things that I don't think about when it comes to this kind of stuff, that like, this is what happens when you're basically forcing people to fight in a battle, in a war that they want no part of. They're going to try and find ways to get out of it. So I find it oddly brilliant on their part. So it's equal parts awful, hilarious, brilliant, and a shame. Yeah, I think I covered it all, right?
All of those things.
Yeah. All right. So we can roll right into this guy right here.
Yeah.
I'm making you take the lead.
The short version on this is Zelensky has come out and said, no matter what President Trump says, no matter what Putin says, he is the one who's going to decide when the fighting ends. And, folks, we've all been rooting for this. President Trump especially has said this from the campaign. He just wants the killing to stop. We all want the war to end. Yeah. Americans have a skewed perspective on this because for the last, since the end of World War I, really, we have stopped taking the loser's stuff. Like warfare changed in the 20th century, where it was like you win, you get the loser's stuff, you get their land, you get all their riches. We don't do that anymore. And Americans think that's how warfare goes, and it's not true. And so really the negotiating point that President Trump has been trying to make is that Ukraine's going to have to give something up for this to stop. That's just the way it's going to be. And oh, by the way, a century ago, that's exactly what happened in warfare. But Zelensky has said he is the one who's going to decide when the fighting stops. And let me tell you, folks, this guy has no vested interest in this war ending, because as soon as the war ends, Ukraine holds elections and he comes out of power. And that is the last thing that he wants.
Right.
So he this is not ending anytime soon, as much as President Trump wants it to. And truthfully, even President Putin, who's dealing with knuckleheads shooting each other to get VA benefits, right? He knows this is going on.
Right.
Like, he's trying to deal with that stuff. As much as even he wants it to end, it's not going to happen, because, you know, Combat Sweater Monkey Boy is not going to allow that to happen, because he comes out of power when it does. And the guy's a piece of trash. Stop making him a hero. He is far from it. He has nothing. He doesn't care about the Ukraine. He doesn't care about Ukrainian people. He's a failed comedian who somebody put in a position of power that he doesn't want to give up.
Yeah, he's an actor playing a role and probably getting incredibly wealthy doing it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Billions with a B. Billions with a B. Yeah.
You know, that little tiny man is just stockpiling that cash like Midas, you know. It's crazy. It's so disappointing. Like, I feel like, you know, everybody sits around the table there, you know, and everybody's all ready to to sign away and just be done with this. And then, you know, he's the guy in every office meeting that's like, I just have a question. And everybody's like, damn it, Zelensky.
On Friday afternoon. On Friday afternoon at 4:55. Yeah.
He's that guy every time. And it's so nice. And I know I'm like, you know, downplaying it and everything, but at this point, like it is my nature. I gotta find something to laugh about here with this. So yeah, that he just sucks so bad. I can't stand. What did you call him again? Monkey.
Combat Sweater Monkey Boy. Yeah.
That's his new name now for forever. I'm even going to make a meme. I'm going to make a meme of that.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Listen, we saved the best, the most important, epic breaking news. I need everybody to calm down, okay? Calm down. But, oh my God, Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce are engaged. Yeah. I know you could tell that I was not serious about caring. Listen, congratulations to them. I think it's lovely and wonderful. I love love. Love is a wonderful thing. I think more importantly, I think they are the most brilliantly branded couple on the planet. The billionaire pop star and the hunky, I mean, not to me, but apparently to other people, hunky football player guy, and their whirlwind charming romance has culminated to the engagement of what appears to be the engagement of the century. Like, this is the biggest news. We have major mainstream platforms gushing over this, like fangirling so hard.
Oh, yeah.
And I have.
Did you hear about the college professor that had to stop class? This was a male college professor. The announcement came while they were in class. He had to stop class, and he let everybody out. He was so emotionally overwhelmed. Yes. Oh my, what? It's insanity.
It is bonkers. And I mean, listen, I have zero Taylor Swift hate. I know people love to hate on her. I have teased and you know, made light fun, not actually of her, really actually of her rabid fan base, how they go like absolutely bonkers if you even hint at saying something vaguely negative about her. And I did once, and they came for me. It was more about not making.
Was it Elliot?
It had to be Elliot. Now I'm going to go back. I bet you it was Elliot. He started the whole thing. It was like, I think I made a video about basing your vote on what a celebrity says, and I used her as the reference, and I simply said, maybe don't vote based on a girl whose all her songs are based on bad choices in men. You know, it was funny. It wasn't even original. Other people said it. I just said it slightly differently, and they were like, "How dare you?" They got all Greta Thunberg on me, like, "How dare you?"
Yeah.
Listen, again, congratulations to them. Obviously this was huge. It is fascinating. So GQ hailed the announcement as a PR coup so smooth. It wasn't just an engagement. It was the launching point for Swift's upcoming album, The Life of a Showgirl. And they called it a branding symphony sealed with a ring. And you said, which I didn't know, that he has a clothing
line.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, he has a clothing line. I don't remember what it's True Colors, I think, and spelled stupidly,
Of
like
course.
with a K,
Oh.
and they're doing a collab with American Eagle Outfitters.
Very
right?
interesting, actually.
Very interesting, right?
That's fascinating to me. Of all of this, that's probably the most interesting thing of it.
Yeah, but that dude is about to sign a prenup that's about as thick as the Yellow Pages. And she's, he is clearly fodder for like the next album because we all know how she operates, right?
Absolutely.
And
I wonder if everybody's going to love this album as much, because I would
course
imagine all the
they
songs
won't even
are going
listen
to be.
to it. They won't even listen to it.
It's
going to
go right to number one,
it's
double,
ridiculous.
triple, platinum, whatever the highest thing is. Listen, I watched her years ago. I haven't watched any of the network shows in many, many years, but I used to watch The Voice. That's the one I used to watch. And she was, and I remember this very distinctly because I was very impressed. And I didn't have really an opinion of her before. I liked her well enough, whatever. But she was like a guest mentor or something like that. I forget exactly what they call them, but a guest mentor for the contestants. And the advice and critiquing that she was giving these young wannabe stars, singers, was kind of amazing. Like, she's actually pretty brilliant in her lane. Like, she is exceptionally smart in what she does. I don't know about any other aspect of it. I don't know anything about her.
Listen, you don't get to be a billionaire.
You don't. Right.
Like, she is a business billionaire. She's not just a talented billionaire. She is a business billionaire. That girl is not dumb in any.
She's. I think she is musically brilliant in knowing what sells, what works. She is, so I give her tremendous props and credit. And that,
she's marrying a big dumb animal.
A big dumb animal. Good on her. Good on her for feeding the animals. Good girl for.
Listen, folks, I'm calling it. You're hearing it here first. I'm making one of my predictions. Super Bowl halftime show, Taylor Swift. You're hearing it here first. It's coming.
I feel like it's got to be. How could it not be? How could it not? There would be.
And by the way, they're the new Harry and Meghan.
Yes.
This is the biggest engagement since Harry and Meghan. And the wedding will be that large. Like, it will be a media event.
My goodness.
Yes.
You
can see that coming as well.
Yeah, I can honestly tell you that I will not watch it, but I will watch all the clips on TikTok or wherever.
I bet they televise it.
Oh, no doubt. Yeah. They're not going to miss
the
opportunity.
Business sense.
Yeah,
smart.
They will not miss that opportunity at all. And again, I'm not knocking it. Good on you. Listen, use the opportunities that are put in your path or that you've created for yourself. Go, girl, go. So that's it. That's it, right? I mean, that's all we got. That was really good. I think we had a really nice balance. I'm like commending us. I'm critiquing our performance. I think we did a marvelous job of navigating the roller coaster.
Knocked the rust off after 2 weeks of rest, and we're back at it, folks. We're back again.
Yeah, we came back fresh. We are super excited to be back with you guys. We missed you. We missed each other. This is like our thing. This is what we do every week. We talk about the stuff and things. And and Clay, teaches me things that I didn't know before and gives me a different perspective. And I love it. And I teach Clay all about Taylor Swift and the importance of her life. And it's a very good balance that we have. But yes, so guys, please jump in the comments section. We'd love to hear from you. Love to chat with you in there and see what you think about everything. Even when you don't like it, like Elliot, it's all good. It's all good. Clay, you want to close them out?
Hey, folks, happy to be back. And we're right back in it. Things don't slow down, even in the 2 weeks we were gone. And we appreciate you guys coming on and joining us. And like Elsa said, jump in the comments section. Tell us that we're crazy or that you love us. We don't care which. And until next week, for me, keep moving, keep shooting.
Take care, guys.
Prepare for the re-release of Clay's electrifying novel, Keep Moving, Keep Shooting. This is book 1 in his gripping Terry Davis series. Experience an edge-of-your-seat thriller that will leave you breathless. Get your copy of this highly anticipated re-release. It drops July 4th. Don't miss it. She's the voice behind the viral comedy, bold commentary, and truth-packed interviews that cut through the chaos. Author, brand creator, proud conservative Christian, this is Elsa Kurt. Welcome to the show that always brings bold faith, real truth, and no apologies.
We're about news, commentary, conversations, truth, liberty, and God. We stand for American values and our flag. We believe that the Constitution is a document that fortifies rights already given to us by our Creator. We will not apologize for our love of God and country, ever. We are Right America Media.